Now, this first lecture is going to discuss the characteristics of correlation coefficients. And what we mean by this is how we describe these values. And we can describe these in terms of strength of the relationship, which refers to the magnitude of the number attached to the correlation. We can ask questions like, how strong is this relationship, in which case we're dealing with strength. And we can also deal with direction, or what happens to one variable as the other variable increases. If both variables increase at the same time, then it's a positive relationship. If one variable decreases as a result of the other increasing, it's a negative relationship. And so we can talk about strength of relationship and how it's visualized on a scatter plot. Strength increases as the points more closely form an imaginary diagonal line across the center. So in this case, we can see here this diagonal line. The points here are pretty far spread out, okay? Whereas here, our points are kind of clustered around this line, okay? Now, both of these represent a correlation. This represents the correlation between years in school and income, in both cases between men and women. But in this case, we can see we have a much weaker relationship for males. The points are spread out farther from the line than is the case for females. So the correlation between years of school and income in thousands of dollars is higher for females than it is for males. We can do this, we can make these kinds of conclusions because we can see these dots spread around this line here, and the closer those dots are to that line, the stronger the correlation. I can also talk about the direction of correlation using scatter plots and lines. We can describe correlations as either positive or negative. If it's positive, as is the case here with income and years of school, then as years of school increase, so does income, as measured in thousands of dollars. And I can also look at negative relationships, which is the variables moving in opposite directions. In this case, as years of school increase, our prejudice score starts to decrease. So this is in line with the general idea that the more time that you spend in school, the less prejudiced you are. And so these two panels together, where we discuss how to visualize the strength of a relationship, as well as the general nature of the relationship being positive or negative, this is what we mean by describing the characteristics of the correlation coefficient. And we can also talk about curvilinear relationships. The relationships that we've discussed in the previous two slides are well described by a straight line. But correlation techniques also exist for curvilinear or nonlinear relationships, which refer to relationships between variables that change directions at least once. So here I have daily television viewing, okay, on the y-axis, and I have age. Okay? And as we can see, as we, our first decade of life or so, we spend a lot of time watching television. And then as we get to school age, okay, and about when we're raising our own family, our television, daily television starts to decrease. And then as we age and reach retirement age, it starts to increase again. So a nonlinear relationship is a relationship that's described by a line that changes direction. So just to recap, the correlation coefficient can be described or characterized by its direction, and this is corresponding to the negative or positive valence associated with the relationship, and it can also be associated with strength. Values close to 0 indicate little or no correlation. Values closer to -1 or +1 indicate really strong correlations.